In my audio bag, I have a MixPre-10 II by Sound Devices. And it's a safe bet that this mixer has changed my career. It has turned me into a full-time freelance location sound mixer. But now it's time for an upgrade. I'm upgrading to a Sound Devices 833. So in this box, I have a brand new 833 that I just got from Gotham Sound. Not sponsored, but I love Gotham Sound. Check them out if you haven't. They are the best place to buy audio gear. But this just came, so we're gonna take a look at what's inside. When you get a Sound Devices mixer, it comes in a very simple packaging, which I appreciate. Let's get this thing opened up. All right, so in here we can see we have the mixer and some extra ditties up there. Let's take a look. Got some power. All right, so let's pull this out from underneath the cellophane. And you can see that we have the mixer. Let's get this opened up. And there you have it, a brand new Sound Devices 833. So I'm going to compare this to the MixPre-10 II physically first. We're going to physically compare how these things look and feel. So I went and got a sound blanket because this table was being a little loud and I want to make sure I quiet it down. And based for my lav, not bouncing off the table, plus just as I move things around, the table was pretty clinky and clunky, okay? So that's for you guys. Got to keep it sounding good. Now, let's get to comparing these mixers. So as you can see, if we orient them both in the same direction, you can see the difference here. So they are roughly the same footprint. That's one thing I notice. The other thing I notice is that they are about the same height, but the MixPre-10 is a lot skinnier, okay? It's not as tall, all right? Not as tall, and then if you look at this front panel, the screen on the MixPre-10 is considerably smaller than the screen on the 833. Now if we look at the side panels, these are not a direct comparison because the configuration on these panels is slightly different. So the MixPre divides their inputs over two sides. So on the 833, this is the output panel, and you can see you've got full-size XLR, you've got TA3s, and then you've got a mini jack, 1/8 inch jack, X3, X4, a return, USB, A and C, antenna, and timecode, which is LEMO. On the MixPre-10, this is 4 combo jack inputs, micro line. Then you have your main outs, which are TA3. Then you have your auxiliary in, which is the equivalent of this X3, X4. And then you have your headphone jack, which is on the MixPre, it is an 1/8 inch. On the 833, it's a 1/4 inch. Okay, and then there's no control dial on the 833 on the side. This is the main workhorse of the MixPre, this control dial. There's none of that on the side. All the controls for the 833 are on the top. Okay, so then if we go around to the other side, again, slightly different. You can see on the 833 that you have 3 full-size XLRs that are not combo jacks that can't take 1/4 inch. And then you have 3 TA3 inputs. You have a COM return. And then you have another set of headphone outputs. This is on another 1/8 inch. And then you have a headset input for a headset that has the type where it has a microphone on it. And then on the MixPre-10, you can see that we have 4 more combo inputs. And then you have timecode in, timecode out over BNC. And then your auxiliary inputs, or sorry, not inputs, these are outputs on the MixPre. Your auxiliary outputs, X1 and X2, are on this side on the MixPre-10. And then you have USB-A, USB-C. On the MixPre, the USB-A is a way to record. It's a backup medium. And the USB-C is a way to charge and connect it to a computer, just like the 833. Then you have your toggle on-off for the MixPre-10. And then when we go to the bottom of the units, it looks a little different down here on the bottom, okay? The MixPre-10 has this Hirose output for power, which is how I've been powering it with my battery distribution system. You can see that on the MixPre-10 you have SD card slot on the bottom. And then the way the MixPre-10 is set up is that this set of connections here is modular. So you can click in a AA sled or an L series Sony sled here to add different ways to power the unit. And then the 833, you notice, has the L series Sony receptacles right on it. And you cannot click anything in to modify that, right? And then instead of the power being on the bottom, the power is over here on the side, and it is a different type of connector. It's a 4-pin DC connector. That is because the 833 needs a little more voltage than what they can send through Hirose. Okay? And then recording medium, I'll flip it back over to the recording medium. So like we said, the MixPre-10 has a SD card slot on the bottom. On the 833, there is a double SD card slot over here on the side, okay? And there's no slot on the bottom. It has a 256 gigabyte SSD internal on the 833, okay? So the way that you record on the MixPre-10 is you use the SD card on the bottom as your main record, and then I have it set up, which is usually the way people have it set up, is when I hit stop on my record, it starts copying my files over to USB-A, okay? On the 833, that is not an option, all right? You can't power, you can't automatically dump your media off to this USB-A port. And that's because you already have 2 extra SD card slots. So the 833 records internally, plus you can also simultaneously record to both of those slots at the same time. So triple recording. And we'll get more into that a little bit later. And then the other difference, if you look at the top of these 2 units, the 833 has this additional port here. It's magnetized. I'm trying to get it open here. There you go. And then you can see here that there is a digital input port, okay? And that takes an extra block that you can plug in, and then you can access AES input for the 833, okay? The MixPre-10 has no AES capabilities. It's all analog on the jacks and everything, and it can't do any AES. The 833 can do AES, as it says here, on port 1. So jack 1 can take AES stereo input. Also, on the output side, the outputs can be set to be AES or analog. AES is a digital protocol that runs over XLR cables and does 2 channels instead of 1 on 1 XLR. Okay, so that's a plus. Lots more options, okay? So then what you do, if you're going to use that port, is you just put that clip on the back. Alrighty? Now, let's talk about the differences here with the controls. Without powering the mixers on, I'm just going to explain the differences in the controls. As you can see here, the MixPre has 8 fader knobs. In simple mode, all you have is fader. Now, I have been running my MixPre in advanced mode since the first day I got it, because, you know, that's what you do. You don't run this thing in simple mode, you run it in advanced mode. And the reason you run it in advanced mode is that way you can have gain and fade. So on the MixPre, you have to use the touchscreen to do the gain or trim. Gain and trim is an interchangeable term, so if I throw those terms around, that's interchangeable, gain and trim. You trim on the screen and then you fade here with the faders, okay? On the 833, you have these, I don't know if you can see that, but you have these, I'll put it sideways, so you can see that when you press these knobs, they come out. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, automatically depressing knobs, okay? So when you press those, so I'll get these back up next to each other, all right? So when you press these, you have trim or gain on a physical button, okay? And then you have fade on these faders here for channels 1 through 3. So channels 1 through 3 are activated there, and then you have these trim knobs for each channel independently, okay? And then channels 5 through 6, you can press up on all these knobs, and then you can have trim knobs and faders for each one of these additional channels, okay? So channels 5 through 6 are these miniature style faders that pop up, but they also have hardware gain knobs. Okay? So that's the main difference between the fading side, and then you access fader 1 with this and fader 4 with that. So you flip this toggle either way, depending on which channel you want. The control knob is very similar. The main difference is over here on the screen. This is not a touch screen on the 833. The MixPre series is all touch screen. And then where the MixPre has this knob here, okay, that knob does pretty much everything in combination with you touching this screen. On the 833, you have different control knobs. So these two knobs work together to scroll around on the screen. Plus you have hardware switches that do different things. Menu button, meter button. Your power is also on the top versus on the MixPre, your power is over here, right? So as we're sitting here and talking about some pretty expensive gear, I just want to encourage you as a freelancer, because it is difficult to know when to upgrade. It's very difficult to know when to pull the trigger on a $6,000 recorder, right? Because $6,000 is not small change. Now, I don't want you to get discouraged when you're watching other videos where people are demonstrating expensive gear that you can't afford yet. It's a fine balance as a freelancer to know when to upgrade, all right? And the trick that I'm going to give you, or the tip I'm going to give you, is the time to upgrade is normally further down the road than you think. So that's fact number one. You probably don't need to upgrade as soon as you feel like you need the upgrade. I was feeling that I needed this upgrade to the 833 like a good year ago. Seriously, 1 year ago, I was saying, man, an upgrade would be nice, right? Especially an upgrade this large and this expensive. So usually the upgrade is further down the road than you think. Why is that? Well, because you need to first have that feeling that you need to upgrade, and then you need to apply the principle of comparison from what you have to what you could have, right? So if I have the MixPre-10, when I'm on a set and I research and I know the features of the 833, what features on that new piece of gear would you actually use right now on jobs that you are booking today? Upgrades need to solve problems that you are having right now. Okay, let's get that straight. It's not solving theoretical problems in the future. It's client has continuously asked me to do things that my unit can barely do. So I need to upgrade. Okay? So I just want to make sure that you know that you should be patient, right? Patience is key when you're figuring out when to upgrade gear like this. So you have the feeling that you might need it, and then you just pay attention. Your antennas are up, and you're like, okay, I'm going to research this new piece of gear, and I'm going to find out if it actually will solve problems. If it does solve problems, well, then you just start building your plan for how you're going to acquire it, how you're going to save the money, and how you're going to acquire it. Okay. So I hope that helps as you're thinking about when to upgrade to new gear. This is a 3-part video series. You can go watch the other 2 right now. This first one is going to cover just physical differences of these 2 units and why I upgraded from this to this. And then I have another video where I'm bagging this up and getting it all configured and ready to go in my bag. And then the third video is a deep menu dive of how this 833 works and all the different menu settings and how you would get it all configured for your purposes. So the last thing that we're going to do in this comparison video is we're going to power these up and just show you the differences overall with the menu layout and how you interact with the unit. This is a Hiroshi connection and this is a 4-pin DC connection. Again, the 833 draws more power than the MixPre. So that's why the different connection. So I'm going to get that plugged in. I'm going to take this, plug it into the 833. Get that all set. The reason why that automatically powered on is because that's what I have it set to do. I keep the unit on all the time, and then I just power it on with my BDS, okay? On off. All right, so for the 833, power it up. First boot, good stuff. Looks like it's all good. Okay, free run TC reset. It's just telling me that the time code has been reset. That's what I see when I see this. So when you first look at the screen, you can see that the 833 is providing considerably more data. It's providing a whole lot more stuff that you can see, okay? It's giving you frame rates, information about lots of different things, time code, batteries, voltage, recording systems, and all that stuff. You can see the MixPre is giving us some basic levels and all 10 channels, time code readout, and you can also see in this configuration how much smaller the 2 screens are. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, again, I don't have the specs in front of me, but it looks like this MixPre screen is a good half the size. And again, this whole touchscreen system is all based on buttons that are big enough for your fingers to not mess anything up, okay? So if you go into a channel strip on the MixPre-10 versus you go into a channel strip on the 833, right here you can see the difference. You can see that the 833 has considerably more information on the channel. In the MixPre, all you have is solo, mute, arm, gain, pan, low cut, mic line, phantom, phase, delay, linking, and noise assist. Okay? On the 833, you've got a much bigger meter that shows you what's happening on your channel. Plus you have mic line, stereo linking, low cut, delay, compressors, limiters, pre or post fade selections, EQ, an easy auto mix button right here. And then it's showing you where all that is going on the LR 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus you get a PFL indicator, you get an arm, left, right, center. And then on these, again, this 833 is not touchscreen, so you roll through all these settings with this control knob on the left. Okay, so this is where you would say the channel source, mic line, phantom. So in that case, you would come over here on the MixPre and do that. Again, it's all either finger based or it's with this control knob on the right on the MixPre. One of my gripes with the MixPre, that it's clunky and it's kind of easy to make a mistake with your fingers, right? You're in the field and you're touching things and it's easy to like get lost, okay? So the mentality behind using control knobs on the 833 is that you're not fat fingering it, okay? You're not going to be able to accidentally press the wrong thing. You're going to roll through it all with this control knob, okay? Back to menu. So then you can just see that you can go down through each one of these settings, okay? And then you can click into them and change them, okay? I'm just pressing down on this menu button. Okay, so that's the main difference. Ooh, that's cool. That's the EQ screen, okay? I'm gonna end with why I upgraded from one to the other, okay? The MixPre-10 is an incredibly powerful mixer. If you've watched anything on my channel, you see how much I've maximized the features on this unit. It is an incredible unit. It's a $2,000 unit. Again, this is late 2025 when I'm filming this. It's plus or minus $2,000, right? I paid $6,000 for the 833, so there is a $4,000 difference between these two units. And you might say, wow, that's crazy. Well, it is crazy. It's a lot of money. And here's the reason why I upgraded from the 10 to the 8. I upgraded for the physical controls, okay? I wanted and I needed to have physical trim knobs, okay? Because when I am one man banding it, as they say, and I'm booming and I'm doing, you know, crazy things, I want to be able to come in to this control knob right here, and I want to be able to trim that and gain that with one hand, right? On the MixPre, if I want to gain a channel and I'm one-handing it and I've got a boom out, I actually have to come into the channel and I have to come over here and I have to fat finger this gain, or come all the way around to this control knob, okay? Not as easy to do. I'm just gonna say, not as easy to do, all right? The other reason I upgraded is because the 833 has onboard compressors and EQ and limiters. Now, the MixPre-10 has limiters. It does, but the limiters are global. So you can either globally turn the limiter on or globally turn the limiter off. And that turns it on or off for everything. On and off for every channel and the bus, the main mix bus, okay? On the 833, you can turn limiters on and off per channel, per bus. The other thing that you have is compressors. The MixPre-10 has no compression. And you have a 3-band EQ. The MixPre-10 has no EQ. All the MixPre has is a low-cut filter, which the 833 also has. So they both have low-cut filters, okay? So why do I want compressors, limiters, and EQ? Well, for my type of work, I do a lot of live mixing for broadcast where I have to take like 4, sometimes 5 or 6 microphones for ESPN, NBA, NFL Network. whatever the clients I work with that I'm broadcasting for, and I have to live mix a broadcast ready feed. So when I'm sitting there and I'm mixing 4 ESPN analysts holding mics and they're talking back and forth, I want compression, okay? I want compression on those channels because if I'm mixing for broadcast, which means they don't care about my ISOs. They do not care. ESPN wants a broadcast ready mix, okay? So at that point, my job is to mix a strong and present mix track, and I want compressors. And I want EQ to be able to solve problems. Now, for a setting where I'm just recording ISOs, and I'm tracking for a narrative or something corporate, and they don't need me to create a mix, per se, for any purpose, and I'm just recording, well, then I'm not going to use any of those compressors or EQs. I'm going to keep the channels flat, okay? But that's a main reason for me to upgrade because that's part of my workflow. I do a lot of live broadcasts. The other reason why I really like and why I really pushed for this upgrade is that there's buses and there's additional outputs. So this MixPre-10 has 4 outputs that you can tap. The 833 has 6 outputs. Now you would say, well, it's only 2 more. Is it really that big of a difference? It is that big of a difference because I'm constantly being asked to output 5 or 6 different things. Okay, I'm being asked to output for 3 cameras frequently, sometimes 4. I've been asked to output for 5 cameras. I know that's crazy, but I have been. Plus, I'm being asked to output for different in-ear mixes, IFBs, IEMs. Those are the things that go in ears of producers and talent. So I'm being asked to do a little bit of that. And because this thing has buses, because the 833 has buses, I can create 4, well, actually 6, honestly. I can create up to 6 different mixes because it's 4 buses plus the left and right bus. So I can more customize the outputs. So that's the other reason why I upgraded. And then the last reason I upgraded is a little bit particular, and I know maybe it doesn't mean anything to certain people, but to me, it's a usability improvement. Now stick with me. So if I hit record on the MixPre, I can't change certain things after I hit record. Once I'm in record mode, I cannot turn phantom power on and off for any channel. I cannot change mic or line level for any channel. On the 833, I can do both of those. So I've run into situations where I'm running and gunning, I'm moving fast, I hit record, and then, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn on phantom power for that mic. Oh my gosh, I forgot to change it from mic or line, right? This happens, right? It's not a mistake. It's just I'm moving fast. Hit record, and all of a sudden I realize on the MixPre that I have to change one of those settings. In order to change that setting, I have to stop, change the settings, start again. That can be a problem. On the 833, you can change all those settings when you're actively in record mode, okay? The other thing that you can do, which again is not very common, but sometimes, occasionally, sometimes I'll hit record on the MixPre-10 and I'll realize I don't have the right tracks armed. I'll again, running and gunning, boom, hit record, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't arm track 1. And I need to arm track 1. Track 1, it definitely needs to be armed. So on the 833, while you're in record mode, you can arm and disarm tracks. Now, those are 3 things that don't sound like a big deal, but to me, when I'm running and gunning and I'm moving fast, it's a big deal to be able to change those settings on the fly and not have to fire off a new clip, okay? So those are some major things that I really appreciate about this 833 and its usability stuff, okay? Those are just straight up usability things. And then the last reason why I really wanted to get into the 833 from the MixPre-10 is because of redundancy, okay? I have never gotten screwed by the MixPre-10, and that's, you can take that to the bank. I have never gotten bit by this thing not recording when it's supposed to. Every single time I've hit record, it does what it's supposed to do. So, with that in mind, it's only recording to one thing. It's not making a copy to my USB drive until I hit stop. And at that point, the MixPre is dumping a copy to my USB drive. Okay? The 833 is going to be simultaneously recording to the internal 256 gig SSD. And then if I have SD cards in here on the side, which I will, it can be recording 2 more copies in real time. So this is a triple recording system versus single. Okay? That's a big deal. And the way I've solved it with my MixPre-10 is I always make sure that one of my outputs is recording to somewhere else. Okay, so that I know when I'm on set, I'm either outputting and recording to one of my Tentacle Track E's or I'm recording to a camera. I just need to know in my brain that I am recording to something else. Okay, I'm still going to make sure I do that with the 833. I'm still going to make sure that an output is going somewhere. Okay, as a backup. But again, triple recording, single recording. So I hope you find this video helpful in comparing this and why I'm upgrading between these two mixers. So I hope you enjoyed this explanation of why I'm upgrading from the 10 to the 833. There's 2 more videos related to this upgrade. One of the videos is me getting this all in the bag, and the other video is a deep dive on the menu system of how this 833 works and all the different options that you have when you use this unit. So thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.